What it is, you guys, it's your girl Cadillac. Yes, I'm Cadillac Dixon. I'm the drama like prison wife. I'm the legally blind artist that is rapping and painting for justice. Hoping, girl, to see justice before all phase to black. Yes, it's your girl Cadillac. Anyways, I am coming through today on March the 24th, 2023. I got about 3 hours before I have to join my workshop. So I am going to continue reading this transcript from where we left off. I did release the first part. It is as out of order because by me talking about the lies of the officers, I went ahead and jumped straight to their testimonies. So I'm gonna continue and basically where it left off. They gave Marchello 2 counts of carjacking for taking the vehicle that they were riding in. It was never proved that Marchello took this vehicle, but they put the counts on Marchello because the driver ran and got away. So they had at that point to make Marchello the mastermind of this whole ordeal. To begin with, there were 4 suspects in that car. 1 ran, 2 claimed to have been robbed, and that only left Marchello. So they placed the carjacking on Marchello. Because there were 2 guys claiming to have been robbed, they gave Marchello 2 counts of carjacking, taking the car, which basically they allege that Marchello took the car from the club's parking lot. The parking lot that we could not get the surveillance tapes from. They allege that Marchello took the car from them there and drove them around basically the block. Because it was 1 car, it was said, this is where we're going to pick up, that you cannot charge him with 2 counts of carjacking because it was 1 car and 1 car owner. So if you charge him with 2 counts of carjacking, he could come back on double jeopardy. Okay, so now where we're about to pick up, y'all know that that alleged $60, where I'm going to jump back in. The Marchello's defense lawyer, his public defender, is saying, well, wouldn't that be along the same lines of double jeopardy for charging Marchello twice for that $60? They charged him, 1 guy, at first it was 2 counts of robbery for the $60. And then later during the trial, I think that is before this point. So I'm going to go back, once I get to the end of this, I'm going to go back and do the beginning of the trial, which is basically like jury selection. It's going to be the 2 quote unquote victims' testimony that really conflicts, so leave that last. But right now we have the testimony of the 3 police officers conflicting. And now after we get from that, that 2 saying that the robbery is basically a redundant charge, charging him attempted robbery for the $60, and then charging him actual robbery for the $60. That is a case of double jeopardy. And you see, as I read the transcript, the judge is going to say, no, he doesn't think that's double jeopardy. But, you know, the charge cannot stand without having the robbery. You have to have the robbery to, or the case falls apart. That's the cornerstone of the case, basically, the cornerstone. So without that robbery, there's really no case. And the robbery, to be honest, had not been proved. So let's go ahead, jump back into the transcript. And I am going to, I got an hour to read, girl. My head feels a little bit better. And then after I read the transcript for about an hour, I have to get ready for work. Okay, so here we go. Picking up. Oh, yeah, I forgot I couldn't sit like this. Dang it. It hurted my neck. So let me get back up here. I'm sorry, guys. This is quite difficult for you, girl. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to finish it. My hand hurting, carpal tunnel hurting on this mouse. My neck hurting, trying to position myself right. My eyes are very sore, but I'm trying to see this black writing on white that seems to be floating. But we're going to get through this. Okay, so let's make the page a little bigger then so I could see good. Maybe I could read a little better if I could see a little better. And thank you guys if you checked out the first part. Please do check that out. Showing how the officers that testified conflicted with one another's testimony. Okay, court deputy, you may be seated. The court is always the judge. All right, now go ahead, Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims is Marchello's public defender. Your Honor, with respect to counts 3 and 4, those are the carjacking counts. Okay, they are both carjacking counts. They both include the same car. The actual owner of the car was inside the car. There was someone else in the driver's seat. The court. All right, Ms. Brennan, would you like to respond to that? Ms. Brennan says, Judge, I think it might be premature at this point to dismiss one of the counts. It is the same. And then there's a pause. Obviously, there's only one carjacking that took place here. But because the owner of the car was not like the driver, that was actually carjacking. I'm sorry, hold on. Because the driver that was actually carjacked. Hold on. I got to read this correctly for it to make sense. But because the owner of the car was not like the driver that was actually carjacked. Okay, the reason that the car owner testifies earlier that he did not drive the car is because he actually didn't have a valid license. He had just had his license. I believe it was taken because of some type of controlled substance. It was something. And he had a lot of DUIs and stuff. So he was not able to drink. And then also he says that he was basically incapacitated. His friend needed to drink or whatever. Needed to drive. So he was the designated driver. So they're saying, obviously, they're only one carjacking that took place here. But because the owner of the car was not like the driver that was actually carjacked, it is feasible that the jury could, if they got very technical and very legal, could essentially, there's two different theories here, taking it away from the person who's the custodian of it or taking it away from the actual owner. Obviously, if there is guilty verdict on both, then obviously one would be able to stand because it is double jeopardy at that point. But I don't think at this point that is it. Okay, the court says, I agree. Mr. Sims, there can only be one conviction for taking the car. Only one. Conviction stands. What I'll do is we'll let it go back to the jury. If they convict, then I'll set aside one of the counts. Mr. Sims. Along the same lines in the double jeopardy vein, with respects to counts 5 and 6, the robberies, I'm assuming the robberies being money, U.S. money, and or the wallets. I believe the information. Let me take a look at the information. The court. The judge says, U.S. money current. Mr. Sims says, there's no identification whatsoever that the money, there's no indication whatsoever that the money was taken. The court, well, no, that's not so. Mr. Sims, I'm not done yet. From Jonathan Wintle in count 5, there's an indication money was taken. Yes, sir, I agree. But in count 5, there's no indication the money was taken from victim Wintle. The court says, okay, but an additional argument that is because the money being requested or taken was so contemporaneous, I don't know that word, contemporaneous with the carjacking itself, contemporaneous with the carjacking, My argument is that it was one act, and to convict of the robberies also would be double jeopardy violation. The court replies, well, that argument I don't think is sustainable, but let's talk about that. I looked at the information as well prior to the trial, which I'm sure, of course, the state attorney did too. And it alleges U.S. money current. And there is no evidence that there was any money taken. The only thing taken from Mr. Wintle was his wallet. What's your argument on that, Ms. Brennan? I don't know if that would be to be J-O-A'd. I don't know what that means. J-O-A'd down. Oh, probably adjudicated down to an attempted robbery, because he did ask them both for their money and their wallets. So in regards to that count, in regards to Mr. Wintle, so what's your position, the court is asking? I'm not understanding your argument. Are you stipulating it should be stipulated down to an attempted robbery? Ms. Brennan, yes. Attempted robbery with a firearm. I think it should be JOA'd down to that, which they convicted him of a count of attempted robbery for that $60, and also a count of robbery for that $60 for the two individuals claiming to be robbed. That attempted robbery, the convicted time and sentenced was 30 years. So Marchello has 40 years on all the other charges and 30 years on the one attempted with the firearm, which would have been like 5 or less, but because they put that firearm on there, it's 30. Okay. I think it should be JOA'd down to that. The court, that's your stipulation. That's what I'll do. Mr. Sims, thank you, Your Honor. In regards to all counts, I would simply want to state the state has failed to present a primacy case for purpose of meeting the standard at this stage of proceeding. And we would request a direct verdict on all 6 charges. The court, all right, I'll deny that. Does your client wish to testify? Mr. Sims, he does. The court, all right. Mr. Jackson, do you understand that a decision as to whether you testify, of course, is your decision? And if you don't want to testify, you don't have to testify. And we would instruct the jury that they could not consider that against you. Obviously, if you'd like to testify, you have every right to testify. Do you understand? The defendant, which is Marchello Jackson, says, yes, sir. The court, and is it your decision to testify? Defendant, yes, sir. The court, all right, then bring in the jury. Mr. Sims says, Your Honor, may we ask the witness to be removed from the courtroom? That was when that first guy was sitting there. And then they basically would not let the two be in there at the same time, obviously, so you don't know what the other one said, so that if you are going to incriminate yourself in conflict, it's not like you could hear what the first person said and then say, or either agree with them or say something different. So they have them in at all different times. The court says, yes. Ms. Brennan says, okay, I'm sorry. The court says, everyone please rise, the jury is entering. Whereupon the jury entered the courtroom. The court, all right, Mr. Sims, you may proceed. Mr. Sims, thank you, Your Honor. Defense would like to call Mr. Marchello Jackson. Whereupon Marchello Lee Jackson was called as a witness, and having first been duly sworn, the clerk has examined and testified as follows. Hold on, it can't. I gotta slide over. Now, before we get into Marchello's testimony, do know before we went to court, Marchello, the public defender kept saying, don't take this to court. Take the plea, 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 take, plea. That's all he was saying. And Marcello's like, no, I'm not taking no plea for something I didn't do. So the last meeting is where he basically formulated his defense. So he was telling Marchello, because that Ford was a stick shift, and Marchello had said, how could I even drove the stick shift? I don't even know how to drive a stick shift. But Marchello was advised by his public defender that it would be best if he said he does know how to drive a stick shift, but he just chose not to. So when you hear Marchello testify, he's going to say he knows how to drive a stick shift. But the reason he said that is because that is what he was advised by his public defender. Okay. Mr. Sims is questioning him. Good afternoon. How you doing? I'm okay. Can you state your name for the judge and the jury, please? Marchello Lee Jackson. And how old are you, Mr. Jackson? 20 years old. A little nervous today? So this happened when Marchello was 19. He was wrongfully arrested. A little bit. You've had an opportunity to hear all the information that has and testimony that has come forward prior to this time, right? You've been sitting right there by me. Yes, sir. Tell me what you do for a living. I build children's schools at this construction company. That's when he was working for my dad. Is that the same job you had back on August 12th of 2001? No, sir. No, sir. What job did you have back on August 12th? I worked at Spartan Temporary Services. Doing what? They sent me different places. Last job I was sent to Banana Boat Products to load skin lotion and sunscreen products. And what did you make a week when you were doing that? Sorry, guys. I'm sorry, I can't pause. $241 a week. And when did you get paid? Every Friday. Had you been paid the Friday before that Sunday, August 12th? Yes, sir. Okay, back then, where did you live? 800, blank, Jefferson. Now, if Beach Street were here, that little dead-end circle, and Robinson were here, how far away is blank, Jefferson Street? It's the next block. Okay, were you in your neighborhood on the late evening in August 12th of 2001? No, I was not. Okay, where were you? I was at my grandmother's house in Pine Hills. Okay, talking about that late evening, not that early evening. Oh, yes, I was. Okay, let's talk about what you were doing at approximately. Now my throat messing with me. Get behind me, Satan. Okay, let's talk about what you were doing approximately 11:30. Coming from 7-Eleven. Okay, what were you doing at 7-Eleven that time? Buying a 20-ounce Pepsi. Now, were there other convenience stores in that area that just were closed at the time of the night? Yes, sir. All right. Did you know how much money you had on you at that time? No, I did not. Okay. How? What did you use to pay for your soda at the 7-Eleven? $1 and some change. All right. The 7-Eleven was up on what? What street? Westmoreland and Colonial. Okay. At some point that night, well, let me ask you this first. Were you at the club that night at any time? No, sir. Have you ever been to that club? No, sir. I'm not saying the club name, evidently, but it does say it in the transcript. Do you know what it is? Yes, sir, I do. Okay, but you'd never been there or in the parking lot? No, sir. That night? Let me show you. Mr. Sims, if I may approach your honor. So Mr. Sims is asking to approach the court. Yes, sir. By Mr. Sims, I'm showing you Exhibit 2 that the state attorney has put into evidence. Can you take a look at this composition of 4 photographs? Witness complies. Do you recognize the automobile that's shown in those photographs? Yes, sir. And that automobile that Mr. Nevins says is his. Have you ever been in that automobile? Yes, I have. How did that come to pass? My cousin picked me up on the way home. Okay, you mean on the way as you were walking home from the 7-Eleven? Yes, sir. And who is your cousin? He says his name, so I'm going to leave his name out. I'm just going to put, I'll call him UC. Now, have you ever seen UC Cherry in that car before? No, I have not. Oh, damn, I did it again. Have you ever seen UC in that car before? No, I have not. Did you ask him to pick you up? No, I did not. How did it come about that he picked you up? He was driving down the road and just seen me on the right-hand side, and he just stopped and asked me if I needed a ride. And did you accept? Yes, I did. Why? Because I didn't feel like walking anymore. When you got in the car, did you see anybody else in there? Yes, sir, I did. 2 white dudes in the back seat. Were they the same 2 white fellows that were testifying in here today as alleged victims in this case? Yes, they were. When you saw them, did you say anything to them? I didn't say anything, anybody, but that must be a typo because it says I didn't say anything, anybody. Did you say anything? Oh, did they say anything to you? No, they did not. Well, you talked about your cousin, didn't you? Yeah. He asked me if I wanted a ride. I told him, yeah. And that's about it. When you saw the 2 white guys, did you notice anything about them that was unusual? No, sir. Did they look scared to you? No, they did not. How about your cousin? He looked just normal to me. Now, you knew that wasn't your cousin's car, right? Yes, I did. Did you ask him whose car it was? No, I didn't. Why not? Because he drives a bunch of cars. Do you know if he owns one? No, he don't. Okay. Have you seen him in cars with white guys before? All kinds of people. White, black, whatever, right? Yes, sir. Now, how long were you in the car before your cousin ran the stop sign? I estimated 2 or 3 minutes. During that time, was there any conversation going on between you and the white guys in the back? No, sir. Was there conversation between your cousin and the white guys in the back? No, sir. Did the white guys say anything to you at that time? No, they did not. Did you see your cousin with a weapon at that time? No, I did not. Did you have a weapon at that time? No, I did not. After your cousin ran a stop sign, did you notice the police? Yes, I did. Could you tell if your cousin noticed the police? Yes, he did. How? Did he? Yes, he did. How could you tell? Because he sped up as he passed them. I'd say like 2 feet from where he passed them, that's where he sped off at. And did the white guy say or do anything at that time? They didn't ever move. Okay. Did in fact your cousin drive back behind those apartment complexes and in the dirt in the backyard to Beach Street? Yes, he did. When he turned and went toward the circle, that's a dead end on Beach Street. Did he say anything to you? No, sir, he did not. What happened? As I stopped the car, I'm sorry, I'm reading it wrong. Answer, as he stopped the car, he threw a weapon in my lap and I went to lean towards Robinson. Okay. Talk to me about that. Had you seen him with a weapon earlier? No, I had not. Had you ever seen him with a weapon before? No, I had not. What happened when the weapon landed in your lap? What did you do? I panicked. As I stepped out the car, I just threw it. So where did it go? This is what I'm trying to figure out. If there was a weapon there, indeed, where is it? There's no way they couldn't have found it. Okay. And what would that weapon turn up? Would it turn up the driver's prints? That's probably what it turned up. And that's probably why they had to delete the weapon, but still charge him with the weapon. Okay. I've lost my spot. I panicked as I stepped out the car. Just threw it. Okay. Then what did you do? Began to scatter, but then I stopped on the train track. Okay. You've heard describe what the area is like and you're familiar with it, right? Yes, sir, I am. So on Beach Street, did you cross over those that stepway and those gray rocks? I was directed in the middle of the steps when I stopped. And that's when I seen the police officer lady. Did you go and approach that lady? After she called me, I was just standing there. But then did you approach her? Yes, I did. What did your cousin do? He kept going. Did you know how much money you had in your wallet before the police? Or did you had on you before the police? What? Did you know, I'm sorry. Did you know how much money you had in your wallet before the police? Then it's a space. Or you had on you before the police, and it's a space. No, I didn't. No, I did not. I checked. I'm sorry. I'm reading this incorrectly. It's very hard for me to read this. Answer is no, I did not, period. Question is a space, and then it said checked, and then a question mark. What did you do after the police lady called you over? I sat on the curb after she told me to. Okay, did you ever touch either of the wallets of either of those kids you saw testify today? So now they kids, but Marchello ain't, and they older than Marchello. Okay, did you ever touch either of the wallets of either of those kids you saw testify today? No, sir, I did not. Did you ever point a weapon at them? No, sir, I did not. Okay, so why didn't they had those wallets? Why did they not dust them? To make sure Marchello didn't touch them, because if he definitely touched those wallets, his prints should be on there. Okay. No, sir, I did not. When you got the G in your lap, did you turn around and show it to them? No, I did not. What did you do? I stepped out the car and threw it to my right-hand side. Did you ever threaten to kill those kids? No, sir, I did not. Did you hear anybody threaten them? No, sir, I did not. Did you know that what they had been doing or what they were doing prior to you getting in the car? No, sir, I did not. Did you know what they were going to do? No, sir, I did not. I want to show you what's been marked. And then Mr. Sims says, if I may approach, Your Honor. The court, yes, sir. Mr. Sims, State Exhibit 4. Do you recognize this picture? Yes, I do. It's a picture of me. Is that picture taken on that early morning of August 13th, 2001? Yes, it is. Yes, it was. I'm sorry. And at that time, did you have much bigger dreads? Question mark. Yes, I did. Much longer? When did you cut your hair? Like a week after I got out of jail. Okay. Was that something I requested you to do? No, it was not. Was that the purpose? What was the purpose of you cutting your hair? To have a good appearance when I go looking for another job. Okay. Had you lost your job at the other place? Yes, I had. Why is that? Because I was arrested and I didn't call in or show up or anything. They didn't know what happened to me. For how long? For like a month and a half, almost 2 months. At that time, you were where? In 33rd. 33rd is the jail. When you got out, you looked for a new job? Yes, I did. And was it your attention? I don't know what that means. He must have meant intention. Was it your attention to cut your hair because you knew they were going to know about this arrest or whatever employer wanted to hire you? No, I didn't. No, that's not the case. Because I wanted to have a good impression on them, knowing the situation I was in if they found that out. Right. Well, that's what I'm asking, right? Right. You cut your hair to try to get a good job. Yes, I did. And did you ever steal those fellows' car? No, I did not. Were you ever in that parking lot at the club? No, sir. Did you ever point the weapon at them? No, sir. Did you take their wallets and their money? No, I did not. Did you kidnap them? No, I did not. Mr. Sims, I got nothing further. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Any questions? Yes, Your Honor. Cross-examination. Ms. Brennan. Mr. Jackson, you say you were at the 7-Eleven just before. Yes, ma'am. What 7-Eleven? Where is it at? It's on Colonial and Westmoreland, directly on the corner. Okay, over by the arena. It's over near the arena. It's a good ways from the arena. And you said you bought a 20-ounce Pepsi. Remember that? Yes, ma'am. And did you say how much it cost? It cost $1.05. And how did you pay for it? $1 bill and a nickel? Did you bring any of your pay stubs here today to show that you worked and got paid on that Friday before? No, ma'am, because I did never get a receipt. You never got any pay stubs or receipts? When you go in there and get his answer is, when you go in there and get a soda, I don't really get no receipt. Question, no, not the receipt for the soda. Your pay stub. You said you worked. Answer, no, ma'am, I did not. Mr. Sims, Your Honor, I'm going to object. Overruled, the court says. The witness, no, ma'am, I did not bring it. Ms. Brennan, now you said that UC is your cousin. Yes, I did. And he's the one that picked you up. Yes, ma'am. And where is he now? I believe he's in 33rd. You think he's in jail? Yes, ma'am. Have you talked to him? No, ma'am, I have not. Have you seen him since this happened? Yes, I have. Did you talk to him about what happened? No, ma'am. He was in work release, and I just seen him getting in the van with them when they were taking them to work. But you haven't discussed what occurred this night. No, ma'am. You said your cousin drives a lot of different cars. Yes, he do. And lots of different people are in it. Yes, ma'am. And when he stopped the car on Beach Street, he just threw a weapon in your lap, and that was it. Answer: before he got out the car, he put the car in park, threw the weapon, and jumped out of the car and ran. From the time he picked you up at 7-Eleven. Until you stopped on Beach Street. You've testified there was no conversation whatsoever going on in the car. Yes, ma'am. Nobody talked at all. Nobody whatsoever? I don't talk to... Oh, you didn't talk to your cousin? The guys in the back? Nothing? No, ma'am. Nothing said at all. How about when you seatbelted out the car? Did he say anything to you? He was like a couple of feet ahead of me. Did he say anything to you when he put the G in your lap? From the point we got out the car, I didn't really see him anymore after that. Ms. Brennan, I don't have any other questions. Well, there wasn't enough room or time to talk because it is so close. They're explaining it like it's a huge area. Literally, the police seen the car run the stop sign. The car goes up, makes a couple of left turns, comes around to a dead-end cul-de-sac, stops the car, and jumps out and run. That could be done in minutes. It's not enough time to conversate. And if the cop car tried to pull the car as soon as Marchello stepped in the car and the car rolled the stop sign, okay, if we were going to have conversation, at this point, how are we going to have conversation? Because quickly something just, detours it from that. We're on a high-speed chase. Okay, later for conversation, but she's making it seem as though it's just this normal ride. Nobody's talking. Nobody's, and it's portraying it to the jury to look, Okay. No, ma'am. Nothing said at all. How about when you seatbelted out the car? Did he say anything to you? He was like a couple of feet ahead of me. Did he say anything to you when he put the G in your lap? From the point we got out the car, I didn't really see him anymore. Ms. Brennan, I don't have any further questions. The court, Mr. Sims, any other questions? Nothing, Your Honor. All right, you can step down. Wait, hold on. Juror number 1118. I do. The court, could I have the lawyer's approach, whereupon counsel approached the bench and conferred with the court out of the hearing of the jury as follows. The court, all right. Can he drive a stick shift is the question. So, any objection? Mr. Sims, no. Ms. Brennan, no. Whereupon the bench conference was concluded. The court, do you know how to drive a stick shift? The defendant, yes, I do. Marchello was told to say that because Marchello had sat there with me and we both was like, but he can't drive a stick shift. Why would he say he can drive it? And he kept going, why would he want me to say I can drive a stick shift? And I don't even know how to. And he advised him that this would be best to say you do know how to drive a stick shift. That's why Marchello is answering, yes, he knows how to drive a stick shift. What kind of car do you have? I don't have a car. Do you have a license? I don't have a license. Have you ever had a license? No, ma'am. Learner's permit? Anything? No, ma'am. I never went to get it. Do you drive even if you don't have a driver's license or permit? No, ma'am, I don't. Never drive at all? No, I don't. Have you ever had a driver's ED. Have you ever had driver's ed? No, I have not. Do you? Anybody in your immediate family have a car? Yes, they do. What kind of car? My grandmother has a Chrysler. My uncle has a Thunderbird. Another uncle has a Volvo. Do you drive any of their cars? I don't have license. I don't drive, period. Have you ever driven? I've driven, but not like on road, but in the neighborhood I live. When I was living in Pine Hills, the neighborhood, like right there, like a couple of streets. So you would drive in the neighborhood, but on the street, that's the road, right? It's a like two little streets in my little area. So whose car would you drive? My grandmother's. And that's the Chrysler. Yes, it is. Is that a stick shift? No, it's not. Did you drive any other cars ever besides your grandma's? I drove my uncle's car. He has a Honda. When did you drive that? The last time when I was about 16. About 4 years ago. Yes, ma'am. Did anybody teach you to drive, or did you just kind of teach yourself? Learned on my own. Was your uncle's car, the Honda, a stick shift? Yes, it is. When's the last time? And so the last time you drove, it was like 4 years ago. Is that the last time you've driven a stick shift? Pretty much. Is that the only time you've driven a stick shift? Yes, ma'am. And where would you drive your uncle's car at? Wherever he would go. I'm sorry, what? Wherever he would go. Sometimes he'd be like, do you want to drive? And I just drive it around a little bit, but never anywhere far. But on the street and everything. Basically, wherever he went. I don't have any other questions, Mr. Sims. The court says Mr. Sims. Mr. Sims, no question, Your Honor. Thank you. The court approached the bench. The court says approach the bench, whereupon the counsel approached the bench and conferred with the court out of the hearing of the jury and follows. The other question is, why did you say your cousin put the car in park? Which I don't understand the question. Do you understand the question? Yes, I guess. Any objection to it? All right. Ms. Brennan, scary. Whereupon the bench conference was concluded. The court. Why did you say your cousin put the car in park? Defendant. Because I seen when he moved it directly in the middle. I know that's like neutral or something like that. And he just jumped out and the car came to a standstill and it didn't move. When you don't put a car in park or anything, it'll just continue to move. And the car was at a standstill. The court, all right. Any questions on that topic? Ms. Brennan, no. Mr. Sims, only this. By Mr. Sims, did you notice what kind of car this was? Whether it was a standard or an automatic? No, I didn't. I really didn't pay attention. So when you say the car, he threw it in park, it's that he didn't, it's that he did something and the car came to a stop. Is that correct? Exactly. Mr. Sims, okay, thank you. Nothing further. Anything further? No. You can step down, sir. Defendant excused. Call your next witness. That's it, Your Honor. The defense would rest. No rebuttal? The court asked. No, Your Honor. Ms. Brennan says. The court, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to need to go over. I've been working on jury instructions as I've been going through the trial, but I need to discuss with the lawyers the presentation of those instructions. and that's going to take me a little bit of time to do. So, it can do during closing arguments. Some of it I can do during closing arguments. So I think if I had 10 minutes with the lawyers, I can get that situation situated. So why don't I give you a kind of early afternoon break, and then you're going to go straight through after that? So if you want to go downstairs to get a soda, a cup of coffee, something like that, you can go ahead and do that. And if you could give me 10 minutes, I think that should be sufficient time. Court deputy, everyone please rise. The jury, whereupon the jury was excused from the courtroom. Court deputy, you may be seated. Let's start with the lesser included offense. You want to renew your motion, which was a question. Mr. Sims, would I renew all my motions? I want to renew all my motions. The court, then same ruling on the motions, whereupon at 2:05 p.m. court was in brief recess. All right, Mr. Jackson, come back up with Mr. Sims and bring in the jury. Everyone please rise. The jury is entering. You may be seated. All right, a couple of preliminary matters, one of which is that the count of robbery as... Oh, that's the end of this PDF. Really? Okay, so I guess that means I have to stop right there. Okay, so in that was just the testimony of Marchello on trial. That was the only witness that the court called. The other witnesses in the case that we asked to be called was not called. I should have been called for a witness because they took a written statement from someone saying that that person was with Marchello all the time leading up to this ordeal, and during their time together, that person braided Marchello's hair, and Marchello said he was going to go rob somebody. He was not with that person, but they took that written statement, and that was served to me after. They said that she could not be called to court to testify because that she's not credible, but they took her written statement. If they took her statement, then my statements of being with him that evening and me actually braiding his hair should have been taken. But they did not present that during court. There was nobody else taken. Why no other witnesses? I don't understand why the bartender was not questioned, why nobody at that club was questioned, because the whole place of where, when you have a alleged crime scene, because they claim this was not the crime scene, that the crime scene happened at the club. So when a crime is committed and leads from one location to another location, you have got to research everywhere in between. You cannot just stop right here and do not go back and investigate where they claim the club was, where he robbed them, made them get in the car, and all of that. You have to investigate there. Where is the investigation of that club? Where's the investigation and the testimonies of that bartender that, yes, I did lend my friends that $80 and all of that? Where is all of that? Where's the questioning of anybody that could have seen what happened? Because they're saying nobody was in that parking lot. That was a bold-faced lie. It was a club night. The club was just getting hot. It was people pulling in and out that club, in and out that club. So how in the entire world were there no other witnesses? Then they X'd out the security so that Marchello could prove he was never at that club. They told us that the public defender said he could not afford to pull the surveillance at the 7-Eleven to prove he was at the 7-Eleven and not at the club at that same time. Okay, so if you don't have enough money to pull surveillance, why did you not go back to the 7-Eleven and still question All the workers there. Did anybody see Marchello come in or out? Do they recognize him? Why not go with that photo that they love to flash around? Why not go up there and say, have you seen this guy come in this 7-Eleven? Because that's really the only main convenience store right there, really. So I'm sure Marchello has went to that convenience store many times. So they possibly, even when I worked at the Supercenter, I used to recognize my patrons. I knew who came here all the time, who didn't come here, and this and that. Where is that? Where's questioning that? Did he come in and in fact buy this soda? Or was he at that club making those guys get in that car? None of that comes into play. And now they introduce the weapon. The reason the weapon is there, because now per Marchello, his cousin had a weapon, threw it on him, jumped out the car and ran. They lie, say that the cousin got away, was never brought up on charges. They lied, said Marchello ran, got away, and they brought him back to the people. They did not bring him back. He never got away. He never ran. He was right there with that stopped vehicle. So from where he was sitting down with that police to where that stopped vehicle was the only place. And per Marchello's testimonies, that weapon was thrown onto the ground right there, right outside the car. So my question is, why? You indeed have that weapon. Why is it not brought to court and entered as real evidence? The only way that weapon could have left that scene is through the driver, because the driver's the only one left that scene. Nobody left that scene but that driver. Nobody. So if you can't find that weapon, there's nowhere that weapon could have went but with that driver. That weapon is attached to the driver. It's attached to the driver. But they have to delete the driver. So now we have this weapon that we have, but we can't even attach it to the driver because we have to protect the driver now. So what they did was omitted the weapon, because I'm sure had they searched that weapon was going to turn up the prints of that driver. And that would be in conflict of their case. That wouldn't make sense. That would make the driver your culprit. The driver, the one that has the weapon. The driver, the one that's driving the car, that has the weapon, that is on the speed chase. He chose to lead himself on a high-speed chase. So all of that would tie everything, and those wallets. That's why you don't want to test those wallets, because you know Marchello's fingerprints are not on those wallets. That's why you chose not to test them. So either the wallets have only the alleged victim's fingerprints on it, or it has that driver's fingerprints on it. And you got to protect that driver. You see how the pieces aren't quite lining up. And if they would just be truthful, the pieces would make sense. You can't delete that driver. That's why the case is basically like a whole. It's like from the pieces you have, okay, I guess so, but it's too many missing pieces. That driver is the key piece that you need to make this make sense. And remember, from all the testimonies, he got away. But I got the proof that he didn't get away. He was caught. He was caught. All right, guys. Dang, it's 2 o'clock. I was supposed to start doing my little apartment searching, but I'm getting so engulfed in this. All right, guys. So I'm going to stop there. It's your girl, Cadillac.